God says, listen closely, because this moment is not ordinary. You did not arrive here by accident, and you are not hearing these words by coincidence. There are times in life when everything feels delayed, when prayers seem unanswered, when effort feels invisible, and when silence feels heavier than noise. This is one of those moments where heaven leans closer, not to frighten you, not to pressure you, but to gently remind you that your life is still being guided, even when you cannot see the full picture yet. You have been carrying questions inside your heart that you do not speak out loud. Questions about timing, about direction, about whether the choices you made were right or wrong. Some nights you replay the past, wondering if you missed something important, and some mornings you wake up feeling like something is about to shift but you cannot explain what it is. God says this awareness inside you is not confusion, it is preparation. When the soul begins to sense change before the mind understands it, that is when alignment is happening quietly. God says you have been stronger than you realize. You survived seasons that should have broken your confidence, yet here you are still hoping, still believing, still searching for meaning. There were moments when you wanted clarity but received patience instead, moments when you asked for answers but were given endurance. This was not punishment. This was training. Some blessings require maturity before they arrive, because receiving them too early would have caused more harm than good. God says the reason this moment feels urgent is not because something bad is chasing you, but because something important is approaching alignment. Opportunities, understanding, inner peace, and emotional release often arrive quietly, and many people miss them because they are distracted or tired of waiting. This message is not about rushing in panic, it is about staying present with awareness. When God moves, He does not shout, He confirms. You may feel like time has been slipping through your hands, like life has been moving forward while you remain in the same place emotionally. But God says growth is not always visible on the surface. Roots grow underground before anything rises above the soil. The season you are in now is strengthening what will soon support you. Do not compare your pace with others, because your journey is being shaped with intention, not speed. God says there is something you have been postponing emotionally. A decision, a surrender, a release, or a trust that you keep delaying because you want certainty first. But faith does not work backwards. Peace comes after trust, not before it. This message is reminding you that waiting forever for perfect clarity can sometimes keep you stuck longer than necessary. Small obedience opens big doors. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. And you are not late. The pressure you feel is not a countdown of loss, but a signal of readiness. When the heart becomes aware, transformation follows naturally. God is inviting you to pause, to listen inwardly, and to choose faith over hesitation. The moment is not fragile because it will disappear, it is valuable because it is meaningful. God says what is meant for you will not pass you by, but what requires your participation cannot activate without your attention. This is a season of awareness, not anxiety. A season of inner alignment, not outer noise. Let go of overthinking, release unnecessary fear, and trust that divine timing works even when you do not see immediate results. God says, now that your heart has slowed down enough to listen, let me speak to the deeper place inside you. Not the place where fear lives, not the place where doubt argues, but the quiet space where truth already waits. You have been asking for signs, but more than that, you have been asking for reassurance that your life still has meaning beyond survival. This is not weakness. This is awareness awakening. God says there is a reason you feel emotionally tired even when nothing dramatic is happening. You have been carrying invisible weight for a long time. Expectations you never voiced, responsibilities you never asked for, and patience you were forced to learn early. Others may see you as calm or quiet, but inside, your soul has been doing heavy work. That work has not been wasted. There were moments when you wondered if staying silent cost you opportunities. Moments when you questioned whether being kind made you invisible. God says humility is never ignored in heaven. The world rewards noise, but heaven rewards endurance. Every time you chose peace over reaction, restraint over revenge, and faith over bitterness, something was being recorded beyond what you could see. God says time feels like it is running because you are standing at the edge of understanding. When clarity approaches, the soul becomes alert. This is not a warning of loss, but a reminder of presence. Many people live on autopilot, missing the quiet moments where direction gently reveals itself. You are being invited to notice, not to panic. You may feel like you are always waiting while others move ahead. But God says comparison distorts perception. Some paths are fast but shallow, others are slow but unbreakable. Your journey has been about building depth. That is why delays shaped you instead of destroying you. What is coming into alignment now requires emotional strength, not just desire. God says there is something shifting inside you that you cannot fully explain yet. A change in what you tolerate, a change in what you desire, a change in how you see yourself. This is growth, even if it feels uncomfortable. Growth often feels like confusion before it feels like clarity. Do not rush to label this season as uncertainty. It is transformation in progress. You have learned how to survive storms quietly. But God says this next phase is not about surviving, it is about living with intention. The reason this moment matters is because awareness creates choice. When you are aware, you no longer repeat cycles unconsciously. You pause. You choose differently. You heal instead of react. God says you are not here to relive the past again and again. You are here to integrate what it taught you and move forward lighter. Some memories return not to hurt you, but to be released properly. Closure does not always come from answers, sometimes it comes from acceptance. And acceptance is not surrendering hope, it is reclaiming peace. There are questions you have asked God in silence. Questions about timing, about purpose, about whether you missed something important along the way. God says nothing meant for your growth has passed you by. What looks like loss from one angle was protection from another. What felt like rejection redirected you toward something more aligned. God says the pressure you feel is not external. It is internal readiness. When a person is no longer satisfied with shallow comfort, the soul begins asking for truth. This is where you are now. You are no longer numb, but not fully clear either. That space is sacred. That space is where guidance settles gently. Do not rush this awareness. Do not distract yourself away from it. Sit with it. Breathe with it. Let it teach you. God speaks most clearly when the noise quiets, not when fear shouts. This is a moment of internal alignment, not external chaos. God says you are learning to trust yourself again, and that is part of trusting Him. Faith is not blind obedience, it is relational confidence. The more you listen inwardly, the clearer the path becomes. This message is not here to overwhelm you. It is here to remind you that you are supported, guided, and not alone in this season. God says, "Now listen carefully, because what I am sharing is not meant to rush you, but to awaken you." There are moments in life when the soul quietly outgrows the version of itself that once felt safe. This growth does not arrive loudly. It arrives as restlessness, as a feeling that something familiar no longer fits, as a gentle discomfort that refuses to go away. You are not confused. You are evolving. God says you have reached a point where old coping patterns can no longer carry you forward. What once helped you survive cannot help you thrive. That is why certain habits, certain people, and certain ways of thinking suddenly feel heavy. It is not because they are wrong, but because they belong to an earlier chapter. Growth always asks for release before it offers expansion. You may feel like you have been standing still while everything around you keeps moving. But God says inner movement often looks invisible from the outside. While others were busy chasing approval, you were learning discernment. While others were reacting emotionally, you were learning restraint. While others rushed into decisions, you were learning patience. These lessons do not announce themselves, but they prepare you quietly. God says there were nights when you talked to me without words. Moments when you felt unheard by people but still held on to faith. Those moments mattered more than you realize. Faith formed in silence is stronger than faith formed in comfort. You did not hold on because it was easy. You held on because something inside you knew there was more ahead. God says the reason time feels important right now is because awareness has sharpened. When you are unaware, time passes without meaning. When you are aware, each moment becomes an opportunity for alignment. This is not about fear of missing out. This is about presence. Presence changes outcomes. Presence creates clarity. Presence brings peace where anxiety once lived. You are beginning to see patterns clearly now. Patterns in relationships, in choices, in emotional reactions. God says clarity is not judgment. Clarity is compassion with understanding. When you see patterns, you gain power to respond differently. You are no longer trapped inside reactions you do not understand. You are learning to pause, to observe, and to choose consciously. God says there is a deep strength inside you that you have underestimated. You often measure yourself by visible success or external validation, but heaven measures resilience differently. Heaven measures how you stayed kind when bitterness was easier, how you remained grounded when chaos surrounded you, and how you continued believing even when answers were delayed. You may have wondered why certain prayers took longer than expected. God says timing was not punishment, it was preparation. Some blessings require emotional maturity to sustain them. If they had arrived earlier, they would have overwhelmed you. What is aligning now is arriving because you are ready to hold it with wisdom, not fear. God says you are learning to trust the process instead of controlling outcomes. Control comes from fear. Trust comes from understanding. The more you understand yourself, the less you feel the need to force life. You are beginning to recognize when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to remain silent. This discernment is a gift. There are emotions surfacing now that you thought you had already processed. God says healing is not linear. Sometimes emotions return because they are ready to be released at a deeper level. Do not judge yourself for feeling again. Feeling is how the soul cleanses itself. Suppressed emotions weigh more than expressed ones. God says the future you are stepping toward is not built on urgency, but on alignment. Urgency rushes. Alignment flows. When you are aligned, the right people recognize you without explanation, the right opportunities meet you without force, and peace replaces pressure. This is why slowing down internally is more important than speeding up externally. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where understanding catches up with experience. God says this is a sacred transition phase. A phase where clarity replaces confusion, where wisdom replaces impulsiveness, and where peace replaces constant overthinking. God says stay present in this moment. Not because something will be taken away, but because something is being revealed within you. Awareness is the doorway. Peace is the confirmation. Trust what is unfolding gently, not what demands fear. God says, this is where everything begins to settle into truth. Not the loud kind of truth that shocks the mind, but the quiet truth that calms the soul. You have carried questions for a long time, questions you did not always know how to ask, questions that lived inside you as feelings rather than words. Now those questions are slowly receiving answers through understanding, not explanation. God says you are no longer the person who needed constant reassurance. You are becoming the person who recognizes alignment by how it feels, not by how it looks. Peace has started to matter more than approval. Clarity has started to matter more than validation. This shift did not happen overnight. It happened because you stayed honest with yourself when it would have been easier to distract yourself. There were moments when you doubted your own path because it did not resemble anyone else's. God says uniqueness often feels like isolation before it feels like purpose. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to understand deeply, to feel deeply, and to move through life with awareness rather than noise. That sensitivity you once thought was a weakness is actually what allows you to hear guidance clearly. God says you are learning the difference between intuition and impulse. Impulse rushes and demands action. Intuition whispers and invites patience. You are beginning to pause before reacting, to breathe before responding, to observe before deciding. This is not hesitation. This is wisdom forming in real time. The reason certain things no longer excite you the way they used to is because your soul has matured. God says growth often feels like boredom with what once felt thrilling. Drama loses its pull. chaos loses its attraction. You start craving stability, truth, and meaning. This is not you becoming dull. This is you becoming grounded. God says let go of the idea that transformation must be dramatic. Most real change happens quietly, through small consistent shifts in thinking, speaking, and choosing. You did not suddenly wake up different. You became different slowly, intentionally, and honestly. That is why this change will last. There may still be moments when old fears try to resurface. God says fear does not mean you are failing. Fear simply means you are standing at the edge of something new. Instead of pushing it away, acknowledge it and move forward anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is trust in the presence of fear. God says you are entering a season where discernment will protect you more than force ever could. You will sense when something is not aligned without needing proof. You will know when to step back without explanation. You will recognize when to stay silent and when to speak truth calmly. This inner clarity is your protection. You are not required to convince anyone of your growth. God says the right people will feel the change without you saying a word. Energy always speaks before language. Let your peace speak for you. Let your consistency speak for you. Let your grounded presence speak for you. God says what is unfolding now is not about rushing toward the future, but about anchoring yourself fully in the present. When you are present, you stop reliving the past and stop fearing the future. Presence is where healing completes itself. Presence is where guidance becomes clear. This is why this moment matters. Not because something will be taken away, but because something is becoming clear. Awareness is the invitation. Acceptance is the doorway. Trust is the path forward. God says you are safe to trust this process. You are safe to release what no longer aligns. You are safe to move forward without having every detail mapped out. Faith is not about certainty. Faith is about alignment with peace. Take this moment to breathe. Let your mind settle. Let your heart soften. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where clarity meets readiness. If this message brought calm to your heart, stay connected. Like this video to affirm the peace you felt. Comment what resonated with you most, even one word is enough. Share this with someone who needs clarity and calm right now. Subscribe to remain aligned with messages that ground, guide, and uplift your spirit.